Welcome, everyone, to the Daily HiFi podcast. It is Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you know what that means. It's party time.
Oh,
My name
yeah.
is Chana. With me, as always, we've got Joe, Aaron, and Michael. What is up, fellas?
What's happening, man?
What's up?
Yeah. Looks like there's some people who have been busy. Michael,
Always, man. I stay
you've been
busy.
busy.
I am. Just flew in from.
Getting busy.
Nah. Well, never mind.
Oh god. No.
When is that video coming out? I'm excited for that projector
Theater
shootout
video. Yeah.
Probably about 2 days. So
Come on,
I
that's
look-
done already. You already know who won. You already know the whole situation.
of course.
Why? What are you waiting for? You trying to?
Best
I have to
projector is under
edit the video.
$100,000.
Oh,
No,
you have to edit it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to
Oh,
edit
just
the video.
post
I mean, it's but nah. And it's nothing super fancy. The video won't be super fancy. I mean, basically, we worked literally from. I got up at 6 a.m. on Saturday, and we were going. No, I guess that was Friday. I don't know, whatever day it was. But we went from it was Saturday. So we went from 6 a.m. We finished up probably about midnight, like totally. Everybody left. And then we spent like another hour and a half sitting around just kind of talking about, and I just threw the camera on, and
Was that during the Peach Pit After Dark sessions?
I don't know what that was called, but
So
it was a blast though, man. I mean, I can definitely share with you some things that there were a lot of, to me, surprises. I mean, definitely when you're looking at stuff side by side, because we had two projectors, there were 100 or two projectors side by side, two identical screens, had some velvet in between them to kind of keep light from spilling from one to the other.
I saw your video, man.
Yeah, it was
Whole
really cool.
setup. It looked like you guys were having a good time. Looked like a
It
fun
was
time.
fantastic. It was fantastic, man. Super cool. Got to meet some really neat folks, and I may even share a cool little story with you.
I bet the
October projector.
Yeah. Well, all right. So here's the surprising thing. Number one, some of the budget-friendly projectors actually did quite well in certain aspects, especially like in bright scenes. You know, they were like, that actually looks pretty good. And so sometimes people, it's funny. We paired like a really budget-friendly with kind of a really high end, and they went head to head, and we even had some people vote for the budget one. So, and we tried to do it blind test. So, you know, they didn't know which projectors were on. And we just told them, look, do the honor system. Don't be looking back to see, okay, what's on. And everybody was great, man. It was cool. We all just wanted to find out. And when we got to a lot of the projectors, it was hard to tell the difference. And one of the major scenes that really just kind of went, oh, that's the difference, was when we went to black levels. So we would show a scene from it. And so those were really, really dark scenes. There's one where the little creature is down in like a stairwell, I believe. So you just see the two eyes, and then it's just black around him. And so I think I even shared a photo with you guys. It's kind of out of proportion. I mean, like my camera can't capture that, but you could see the drastic difference between the one and the other. So a lot of times black levels is what it came down to, is, okay, I like this projector better than that one because it has deeper blacks. So, but
yeah. Well,
yeah, Life of Bliss was there. Croson was there.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get it straight for the folks who are going to watch the video.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody's going to watch it, of course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the coolest thing is the subjective part, right? So you can tell people, all right, this is 3 times as much.
Yeah.
But this is what you get for 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's
and
like, should I move
see
up to that much, or should I not? Like, you know, get a feel for it. And I think you guys can do that. But what we talked about is you can't do is, I know a lot of people go, hey, can you capture it with the camera? Can you like show me exactly what you
way
saw?
harder than I thought. Like, really, I would take a video of 2 projectors, and like the right one would have a camera roll. Like, you know, I'm like, really? So I don't know how well that, and I didn't even know which ones were being projected, because I was trying to stay objective and just kind of go, okay, I like this one, I like that one, but I wasn't involved in the actual voting of it. I let them do all that because I was technically behind the projectors, and I didn't want that to be kind of skewed. But it was literally, I mean, it wasn't a scientific experiment. We did as best as we could. Nick spent, gosh, I mean, I think he got up at 6 a.m. and he worked till about 9 p.m. calibrating 9 projectors. Usually he said he spends about 3 hours per projector, 3 to 4 depending, and he only had maybe an hour with each projector. So he did the best that he could, had a good time. There was a couple times in the event where wait a minute, something doesn't seem right. Go into the settings and one of the projectors wasn't recognizing Rec 2020, or it wasn't switching or something like that. And that's a little beyond me, but projectors don't do near as well as TVs do in that respect. And so we had to kind of change some settings. And so it was challenging. So there's definitely some things that they learned from that. But overall, man, we had a great time, and found out that on a lot of those projectors, there's less differences in certain scenes. Some of them we're looking at both going, and there's a $5,000 difference between the two. And you're going, I can't see the difference. But then when you go to something like black levels, you go, oh, okay, there is a slight difference there, or there's a decent difference there. And so, but it was fun, man. Wasn't perfect, but we had a blast, got to meet some new friends, and it was just cool. We'll be doing it again sometime in the future.
So we have a question here from Life of Bliss.
Yeah, man. Oh, I can't see it.
What do you think about,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Michael, what do you think about using MadVR versus using the native projector processing?
Yeah, so that's actually interesting. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the video side of things. And so they had a computer and they had some software called MadVR. And so it does what they call tone mapping. So the JVCs have native tone mapping in them. I think some of the other processors or projectors have native internal tone mapping. And then the Panasonic, which model, Chana? The higher Panasonic, it's got internal tone mapping as well.
Oh, the player, the UB9000?
Yeah. So you can have that processed in different ways. So some projectors can't do that. Some projectors do it scene by scene to determine bright levels, dark levels, and things like that. Some of them, some of the JVCs, can do frame by frame. They're literally analyzing every single frame of the movie and adjusting, I don't even know exactly what all they're adjusting, but they're adjusting, doing a lot of math processing while the movie is going to try to give you the best picture. And so comparing that versus native, pretty much, I don't know, because all of the testing was done with MadVR. So that's what they were using. And in my thought is, I was like, why are we using MadVR? Because probably the vast majority of consumers aren't using MadVR. And here was their explanation. The reason why we're using MadVR is these lower budget projectors will get destroyed. Prime example, we had a there was a JVC RS420. So it was an older projector, couple years old. And they said that has internal, what do they call it?
You're on your own.
Tone mapping.
Tone mapping. So they have internal tone mapping, and there was another phrase they used, but internal tone mapping. But they said, honestly, it's garbage. It doesn't do well. And so it's going to look like booty if we don't just try to help them all out. And so it kind of helped level the playing field a little bit, supposedly. But again, some of that stuff is way beyond me. We even had an Envy, which is what he's talking about. So we had one on the PC, which is what we were running. But then we also had an actual $15,000 Envy, it's like a computer.
$15,000.
$15,000. So that was sent to us just to play with, and so that was set up in the main theater room, which had a $25,000 the branded JVC NZ9. So just beautiful, beautiful image, man. So yeah, so Croson, man, you know a lot more about that stuff than I do. Chroma, y'all start talking about that. I learned some cool stuff about Rec 709 and Rec 2020, hanging out with people that are smarter than me on that area. And it was fun, man. It was definitely a very cool educational thing. And like I said, we got to meet some new friends, get to check out some really cool toys. And sadly, the Sony didn't do so well. That was one that we were trying to get people to bring one of the higher end Sonys because it was a little bit older. And we ended up finding out that, or not finding out, but just nobody stepped up to the plate. We couldn't get anybody to bring one. So Yeah, after shows where you get the nitty gritty. Yeah, Croson will share his thoughts and his real deal. He
I
feels
know
like
he's excited. Look at him.
I
He's all
mean,
smiley right there.
Nah, he ain't excited.
wait.
His dip.
he went out and bought a colorimeter.
Yeah,
After this, he's like, oh, I gotta learn how to.
He's wanting to learn
calibrate
some of this stuff, and again, it was one of those things. I had a long conversation with him while I was on the plane, and then I was texting Jonathan and Nick and asking them some questions, and regardless, I mean, they were all calibrated, but he didn't think that his was calibrated, because when he got it back, it was in like the default mode and nothing was really changed for the most part. But they had to take his out of calibration. And again, this is above me. The Epson, and I think there was another projector that wouldn't, it basically was showing wrong colors unless you manually went in there and changed the setting from like Rec 709 to Rec 20, something like that. It didn't do it on its own, and they just couldn't figure that out. So sometimes we would have to look at one and say, okay, ignore this one because one's showing the right color space and one isn't. And then we'd have to reverse it. Don't look at this one. Now look at this, so we couldn't do those side by side. But again, it was just a limitation of what the projector could do, and how that kind of interacted with this whole SDR and HDR kind of stuff. But again, a lot of that was way over my head.
Yeah.
So it sounds like by using MadVR, you're kind of just trying to find out what is the max that these can do.
I think so.
Hardware wise, like what's the max hardware itself can do? If you just like give it the best case scenario, what can the projectors do?
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But then it might, like Kyle's saying though, it might kind of skew the results because if you're gonna get an inexpensive projector, you're not gonna have a MadVR.
Correct. So the reality is, it's weird. There was 1,000 ways you could have done this test.
Yeah.
So part of what they did was they reduced the luminance, like they kind of like we level match amplifiers and volume when we're comparing speakers. Because if one's louder, that kind of gives it an advantage because your ear thinks, oh, that's louder, so I like it better, even if it's not a better sounding speaker. It's just the way our brains perceive sound. And so what they decided to do is with the luminance, the brightness values, think about it. Some of them are way brighter than others. And so they brought the bright ones down to the lowest common denominator to kind of even the play. Again, we're just trying to help out the ones that aren't as bright, that really wouldn't compete at all.
Yeah.
If you're looking at two images and one's way brighter than the other, you're going to go, I like that one better, more than likely. And it doesn't have a chance. So if you level match them, now you're looking at things like, how does it do with sharpness? How does it do with black detail? How does it do with, motion and things like that?
Right.
Like I said, it was cool. So they did that, but then later on, they also said, okay, now we're going to turn them loose and just, let them go, kind of unleash them. Because my thought was, I equated it to like, if we were to say, okay, I've got a Tesla and I've got a Model S, like a Tesla Plaid and a Model S. It's like saying, okay, we're going to throttle the Tesla, Plaid down to the Model S to give it a chance and see what other things are different about it. But then later on, we're like, okay, let's let that thing rip. And then the Tesla Plaid just blew it away, kind of thing. So, but like I said, it was a cool learning experience, man.
Well, one thing about some of these tests is there's going to be somebody who can complain about it, but you know what?
100%.
These guys are doing their best. Like nobody's there saying, how do we mess up these results?
Yeah, exactly.
How do we mess it up? Like, they're trying their best to make it as even as possible. It's hard. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot going on, and it just takes more time. If you wanted to do all the scenarios, you just takes more time.
Yeah. So we spent all day, literally, like from, like I said, 9 a.m. until we finished. Gosh, it was probably at least 8 o'clock at night when we got done with the first rounds and kind of declared a winner kind of deal. So, but it was cool. And then we even found out that the brightest projector, the one that should be the best, which would be the new NC9, $25,000 projector. In certain scenarios, we paired it up with one, and the kind of lower one won. And the biggest reason was because we were using a 100-inch screen, and we just got the 100. We tried to get like 120, but that's just what Elite sent us. So we're like, hey, it's free. Yeah. That's cool. This is what we're going to use. But it was really too bright for 100-inch. And I forget the number, but it was like producing, I don't know, 400 nits. I don't know if that means anything or even if that was the number, but it was too bright. And so it was raising the black level or the black floor. Is that?
Yeah, like the perceived level, like perceived black levels.
Yeah. So it raised that. So it brightened the image, but it made it look not washed out, but it basically, it didn't have those really deep blacks. So the other one actually looked better. But when we lowered the luminance on it, and matched them, that's when it outperformed the other one because the black levels were just a lot better. So like I said, it was just really cool, man.
Would you say, I was trying to think of like comparisons between the projectors and audio, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say like black levels are equal to like low bass extension.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
you have to have that bass as your baseline. If you don't have that, and that's what you have to pay for, right? That's what's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, brightness is kind of like, oh, does it
it's
have
like HDR or like my mid levels?
Yeah.
Bright is easy. And then it's just calibration is just kind of like EQing everything, you know?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Capability. Yeah.
Did you guys also measure fan noise level?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Great question. First answer, just no. And here's the biggest reason. We've got eight projectors running at the same time.
Ah, right. So
it's
pretty
kind of hard
loud.
to do.
Was it loud?
No. Well, I say it. All right. Let me take that back. We don't have 8 projectors running at the same time. We only had 2 running at the same time.
Okay.
But they're probably about 6 feet apart. And think about this. If it took us 9 hours to just test A, B, do a bracket, okay, these 8 went against head to head, and then now we're down to 6, now we're down to 4 now, and that took 8 hours, and we did multiple types of testing and, you know, throttled them, and then we did them wide open. Yeah, it's like there's only so much physically you can do in a day.
Yeah.
So, but that just wasn't something that they wanted to test. So, but yeah.
Very cool, man. It
Yeah,
looked
man.
like I saw some pictures.
It was so cool.
Probably was a lot of fun, even though it was a lot of work.
There's probably like, I don't know, about 15, maybe 20 people, somewhere like that.
You know how you're saying like sometimes it would mess up and different things would happen.
Yeah.
Same thing in the TV shootout. Well, like the Samsung was very annoying because coming off the splitter, the Samsung kept on thinking it was a PC. So it changed to PC profile, which then, you know, turned off all the processing and stuff like that. So it was very, very annoying. We had to keep going back and forth.
Sure.
Yeah. There's always like little things.
Yeah. It's a fun event though. So
yeah.
Quick shout out to Stop the FOMO.
Yeah, dude. Looks like he had a lot of fun, man. I was catching up on some of his stuff. He did a live stream in the car. That was pretty dope.
I know. He was active. And he had the VIP treatment up there. You saw him up there?
Yeah.
Looking down on everyone.
All the peasants.
Looking down on no one.
Yeah, on nobody there. Yeah.
It looked like they were setting up the whole time, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Like the whole time. Like you see, like
last CDO was like
thing open?
Yeah. That was kind of weird.
Which one would I buy? Like if I had my preference, I would go for the middle. Like, I mean, if I had, 15 G's to spend on a projector, I'd probably go with the NZ 8. So that's kind of the one in the middle.
And which one do you have?
I have the NX7. So the NZ series is the current series. So the NZ8 is replacing the NX7 that I have. So the NZ7 would literally be an easy kind of horizontal move.
So would it be
want to move to that from yours?
Yeah, is there a huge upgrade in that?
And again, I think you're working with the law of diminishing returns, like anything else. Because we were able to put the NX7 up against some of those other ones as well, and that was where it was just really hard to tell sometimes. Part of it is you've got a laser light source. So the laser light source gives you 20,000 hours roughly versus about 3. The other thing with a bulb projector is it depends on each bulb because not every bulb's equal kind of thing. Sometimes you get a bulb and it lasts longer before it starts dimming. But I think they say after literally a few hundred hours, you may even lose like 15% brightness or 20%, 25, something like that. So it just kind of over time, it just keeps going lower and lower, where the laser light source should, it may drop just a tiny bit, but you're just pretty much going to plateau for a long time. And so you don't lose that. You enjoy that brightness for a lot longer. A couple other things. They have a new feature called laser dimming. and this is actually pretty cool. So it's kind of similar to the iris, like and I don't know the term for it, but it's like an auto iris. So it's physically like, think of closing down the aperture on a camera. And so that basically makes the image darker, but it gives you lower black levels. And so they have this thing called a laser dimming. And so when you turn that on, it basically dims the laser down. So in those deep, darker scenes, you see the blacks get like crazy black. And then in the bright scenes, it doesn't do anything because it's too bright for anything to dim. So that's another feature of that. So there's definitely some cool things in the NZ series, but it's like anything else. Is it worth it? You got to make that decision, everybody's worth it is different. So, but
yeah. Well, very cool, man. I'm looking forward to that video for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to get a ton of views on that one.
We'll see. Yeah. So I basically just let the experts kind of share like what they saw, because they know their stuff. They know the jargon so y'all just listen to them. So I was just there to be an observer, man.
I'm just watching.
I'm just soaking it in, going, some of it's, it's going over my head. Like when Aaron talks a lot of time, I'm like, I don't know what he's saying, man. So he's a lot more knowledge. No, he's a lot more knowledgeable in a lot of areas. And I'm like,
they make us different at the time.
It's a different dialect of English over there in Alabama.
It is.
I still remember what you called me the first time. So
yeah, that's funny. He never let go of that.
No, some things I'll hang on to.
Aaron, you just reviewed a bunch of Polk products.
Yeah, I did.
Is the video ready? I saw the write up already.
No, I haven't even started the video, man. Not with my kid.
I got a title for you. Don't poke your eye out.
Yeah, I'll poke your eye out. Yeah,
that's
to release it during Christmas.
Yeah, I blitzed that bad boy, that setup. I'm trying to get them done and out of my garage so I can clear up some space. But I'm gonna try to do the video this week, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, they're interesting. They're decent budget speakers, but the tower speakers. The tower speakers actually impressed me. They have more bass than I would have expected them to. Like listening to them in my theater room, I was like, what?
But which one?
That's not bad. Yeah. So
500?
Yeah, they're pretty inexpensive, right?
Yeah, they're all it's the XT lineup. It's the XT monitor.
Oh, the
so
XT. Okay.
Yeah, it's anywhere from $200 for the cheapest bookshelf to $700 for the most expensive floor standard. And the center channels.
They look EQable. Is what
they are. They are. That's actually one of the things that I've got to try to finish playing around with now that I've got the data. Because when I was listening to them, I just threw a shell filter on the top end to drop it down, and it helped a lot. Yeah, we do. That's dang right. We sound normal. All these other guys like, I'm in California, bro.
Alabama too. That's Jeremy Anderson, Chana. That's a guy who's telling. There's a lot of know-it-alls over there in Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama.
By the way,
Joe.
Alabama.
By the way,
say Alibaba?
What's up? I've talked to him a lot, by the way, usually about Oro and Dolby. We kind of go back and forth, and it's always a very technical debate. And so you got maybe all the smarties over there. Huh?
He actually, Jeremy
got NASA.
had a what do you call it? Had an amazing explanation on my video last week. Jeremy, if you didn't see, I actually popped it on screen on today's video. I also pinned your comment on the original video from last week because I think a lot of people need to read it. So, thanks.
Yeah, he had a comment about, like, he's always telling us, like, you know what, for the Atmos specs, you should actually be using this other thing, not what when you type in Dolby Atmos, like layout, it tells you something. He's like, no, that's wrong. Like, use it a different way. And it's like all this math, like you take this calculation and then you do this, and that's how you arrive at the proper distance. That looks kind of complicated, but
homeboy 808 says, I have an uncle in Alabama. We almost never know what he's saying. He just smiles and nods. So
I was just replying saying, is it any relation to that guy that's in Joe Dirt, when he catches them on the street? That part. Oh, I love that part.
Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
Y'all need to move to Alabama, man. Tons of land, big houses for like a quarter of what you pay in California.
Oh yeah.
Come out here. A quarter, man. But the weather sucks because last Saturday we had tornado warnings, and literally the next night, within 24 hours, it was snowing. So it's like, what do you do about that?
Yeah.
Can you
Ridiculous.
bring up the Pulse real quick? Because I had a question about those.
Me?
Is there any
I
way?
can.
Yeah.
Can you share it? No.
Bring it up, but guard your eyes.
That's right. That's right.
goodness.
Let me see here. What
Why,
any
'cause they're
particular
bright?
one, like the bookshelf
Oh.
speaker, or just whatever?
Just the bookshelf.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
any,
That's
any
fine.
of them. They all kind of measure like somewhat, except for I forgot which one. I think the center channel measured kind of weird.
Yeah, that's pretty normal though for a center channel. How
Um,
about that? Is that working?
yeah.
Hey,
Well, I was
work.
looking
That's
from
the
your
bookshelf,
website actually.
one of them.
On your website,
Oh,
Oh,
$300.
had your graphs.
let me figure out how to get rid of this. Stop
Yeah.
screen. Okay, give me a second here. XT20.
Yeah.
Is there a way
So-
to navigate? Let's see here.
So Polk has always been known to be like a bright speaker, right?
It
Like,
seems that way.
I've had numerous Polk products, you know, and always bright, and they kind of toned it down on the reserve. It's still a little bit not crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
But
So the
these are
reserve
actually,
actually,
back to like the Polk.
right? I've had a
Brightness.
lot of people kind of reply about that, saying that that's what they expected from Polk, which I couldn't tell you the last time I heard a Polk speaker other than the R100 or the R100. And that one to me
R100
sounded good at
is-
lower volume, but at higher
Yeah.
volume is when that brightness really started to kind of, you'd be like,
Mhm.
oof.
Yeah.
But these are all the same way, man. So this is one of the bookshelf speakers. This is the bigger of the
Oh
two
yeah,
bookshelf
yeah,
speakers.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to blow this up, but it's just not working as well. as I
Blow it
want.
up.
That's cool.
Aaron's
Blow
about
it
to
up.
blow it up.
So
Blow it
hold on.
up. Dude.
Blow it up.
See the directivity right there. That looks
Yeah, so this down here, it's not
Yeah.
terrible, but they still got a dip in the crossover though. But if I go down to the part where I just focused on like the horizontal radiation,
Mhm.
let's see if that's any better. So this orange dash,
yeah.
so like the flatter, for the guys who don't know, the flatter or the more linear, I'll put it that way. So if this followed the trend up, the more linear the responses in that dashed orange, the more easy it is to EQ it, right? But if like this dashed orange like went down and went up and just bounced all
Mhm.
around, that would mean when you're EQing it, you're changing both axes, and like one axis may be better than the other. So it's throwing different sound out to the sidewalls than it is directly at you, and that's not a good thing. So you want a speaker for EQ ability, you want a speaker that has like a more linear slope or even just a flat line. But this speaker for the orange one, it's not bad. It hits about 2K and then it kind of flattens out. So you could EQ it. Now this top part up here for home theater purpose, yeah, you could totally EQ that. And you could take the brightness out of it. But if you listen to it as just like a 2-channel dedicated and you don't have EQ, it's going to sound bright.
Can you show the compression test that you do? I think that's is it compression? No, not compression.
Yeah. Distortion? It is basically
It's kind of like a thing that you do that I haven't seen other people do.
Oh, do
yeah.
that thing that you do, Aaron.
Okay,
Thing
so-
that you do.
So I have to give you props on this because at first I'm like, I don't get this. I don't know why I need this. Like, but because most speakers don't really, a lot of the ones that I've seen don't like have a huge difference here.
Yeah.
But this has kind of gives you a hint as to like how these might perform.
Right.
Remember, I was asking last time if I cut these off at 80 hertz, right? Can't I just play them loud? Like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Like, I'm just cutting them off at 80 hertz anyway, letting the
Right.
subs do their thing for home theater. But then when I looked at this, I'm like, oh, maybe it does make a difference here.
Yeah,
Right.
it definitely does. Because so for those who don't know, this is kind of a comparison between if you're listening to a speaker at 76 dB and then you have a strong transient that comes up and it hits up to like 96 dB, so a 20 dB transient. This is kind of saying, okay, well, how much does the linearity of the speaker change? You know, typically you would expect you're probably going to lose some bass due to compression. I think pretty much everybody here understands compression. It's just when you're heating a voice coil up or when you're driving a speaker too hard, it's probably not going to be able to dissipate heat quick enough. So it's going to run out steam and you're going to lose output, right? So the blue line would represent at 96 dB, how much output are you losing compared to 76 dB? And it's showing you about half a dB for the most part. But then at the bottom end down here, below like 60 hertz, it ramps up. So it's basically saying you're hitting high distortion levels down here. And it's just a guide to give you an idea of like how loud can I take the speaker, you know? But with the proper crossover, this purple at 102 dB, that's going to basically, I'm not going to say completely go away, but it's going to be mitigated a lot. So you can use this as a general idea of, okay, if I'm going to listen to the speaker loud, or if I want strong transients, how capable is it to do that? So
how long is that
good pointer.
sweep that you do at this? How long?
It's very quick. I try to make it as instantaneous as possible to give you a real representation of an actual dynamic peak. Like if you're listening to music, or somebody shouts in a soundtrack, or you're watching movies or something like that, just any kind of, you're talking normal, then you get loud, and you're talking normal again. You want it to be able to relay that. If the speaker can't do it, then you don't hear that dynamic range.
If it was like more continuous, right? If it was a more sustained thing, could this possibly show something worse?
Yeah, I used to do that, but then I quit doing it because people don't care, and it's just one more thing for me to have to do. So I actually just stopped doing that test with this set of speakers. So yeah, what I was doing was over time. How long does it take for the speaker to heat up, and what's it doing?
Because I think you're like multiple levels above, like, in what you're doing, and I think you're bringing it down like a couple levels, but it's still like, for me, it's still like I still need to like
this is one of those, like, it's not easy to grasp at first. So ideally what you would have is you would have every one of these color lines would be 0, and that would indicate that they're not changing the frequency response at all as you increase the volume, right? But the more they change, the more the frequency response of the speaker changes as you turn the volume up.
Would you say more efficient or larger speakers,
would be more like flat?
Yeah. Is that a trend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually what you see is most speakers are within like plus or minus half a dB, so they're pretty well maintained until they get to the low end, where they start to unload, like the port unloads, or they reach high thermal compression on the voice coil, and it just can't sustain that kind of heat, and it can't provide that kind of output.
Because if you think about it, 1.5 dB, that's significant, right?
Yeah, but then you have to think, okay, if it's 1.5 dB and you're listening at 102 dB at the listening position, this is 102 dB at 1 meter. So basically this 102 dB 1 meter, that's about 92 to 94 dB at 4 meters for a pair of speakers in a room. Okay. So are you going to notice 1.5 dB at that loud of a volume?
I see.
I don't know. And that's where you start getting into trickiness, but I still think it's good to have that information, because if you want to compare, on a apples to apples basis, you've got the data to do that. So you can say, oh, this speaker is probably more dynamic. And that's the thing. Like, people talk about speakers having a dynamic range, and they never back that up with anything. And I think this is a good way to do it. So that's why I do it.
Maybe it's hinting at something, right? Like, a lot of times it's showing you, this is what you kind of look out for. Don't expect these to play super loud or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just one way for me to say, you're probably going to need a subwoofer about this point, depending on the volume level that you listen, how far away you are, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyway,
props to you. I just wanted to give you props because I finally
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Looked at that and said, hey, I see a use for this now.
Aaron, there was a question up a little bit ago. It was on one of the charts. He was just questioning it. Hang on. I just thought it'd be a good conversation, because he's talking technical, which is, again, kind of over my head.
I don't want to bore everybody to death.
No, this is good. But that's the thing.
Well, Leon says, do you think the others know what Aaron is saying? He's too smart.
Well, that's how I feel when these guys talk about colors and HD, and they start talking about gigabits per second.
These guys talking about colors.
I
got lost.
Chroma.
Oh, man, red, green.
What are y'all talking about?
He still got that black and white,
because I'm colorblind, man. I don't see colors.
Yeah, well, you're smart enough to stay quiet. For me, I'm like, try to get in the mix, and then just show how.
I just listen, man.
How little I know.
And honestly, what I'm thinking when you guys are talking about that, I'm like, one day I'm probably going to need to know this, but I'm just going to ask them then. Because if I try to take the time to understand exactly what you mean in that moment, I'm gonna forget it in 2 days. So,
well, very good. I mean, but you know what to focus on. I think I get into too many things. Like today, I was doing my car audio, DSP for the car. Just because I've been doing a lot of DSP lately, and I said, you know what? Let me go and redo the car and see if I can do it better now, knowing what I know. And so I tried some different things. I showed you a picture, Aaron.
Yeah.
The tricky thing about a car is sometimes you say something and it doesn't make sense at the moment, and later on it makes sense. So I think I remember asking you, like, so, something about directivity in the car, and you're just like, in the car, it's just like you're always like
everything's early reflections. Everything's a baffle,
right?
Yeah, everything's a baffle. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're just always near field, but inside of this weird thing.
Yeah, and you're asymmetric, and you got one closer to you and the other one further away, and you're off axis further from one versus the other. It's a total nightmare, and that's really where trying to get into nerd stuff is really cool. So
yeah. Well, I felt like, imagine being inside of a giant horn, but like the worst shape, like a bad shaped horn.
A horn with seats in it. Yeah, right. That's what I mean. It's like, so I remember like the subwoofer talks. People used to say, it's like you're inside of a subwoofer. You've got a subwoofer inside of a subwoofer because you're loading a cabin.
Right.
Yeah. So it was very interesting, and what I was trying to do is trying to find out, what's the target curve for this vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk a lot about target curves because you could EQ it to flat. That's going to sound horrible.
Oh yeah.
You can EQ it towards to some, Harman target or something that's made more for like home theater, and that's not going to sound too great either. And then you end up just kind of like messing around. And I said, you know what? Instead of doing that, I want to find a way to like actually give me the correct curve for this for the car.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just getting a speaker that I knew the measurements of, right? And something with some Klippel data on it. And I just kind of took that measurement, the known measurement, and then I did the measurement in the car to kind of see what changes the vehicle made to it.
Right.
And then I kind of said, okay, well, that's what it's doing to it.
That's what your car's doing. Yeah.
So it was kind of
the same thing. When I bought some tweeters, some ScanSpeak tweeters, I measured them years back, and then I put them in the car because I wanted to see what kind of corner loading the dash was having with the tweeters pushed down in the corners, and it's really interesting. You get a lot of extra gain, so they can actually play lower with the crossover point placed higher than normal. If that makes sense, because you've got a lot of natural gain. It's kind of like a subwoofer in a room, so you can bump the crossover up a little bit higher than maybe you would in free space, but they still play lower. So that's the one cool thing about car audio. This question real fast. I'll try to answer this one as quickly as I can. I would say probably at this point, so the Revel F226BE was a very linear on-axis speaker. The Key 3, the Dutch and Dutch 8C are the ones that I think of off the top that are just smooth as silk. But those have DSP built into them, and then you can add additional DSP so you can tweak to your heart's desire.
Yeah.
So Aaron, since you got the mic, I found that other question from Jacob Dunkley. He said, is something messed up with the XT70 horizontal contour map? It doesn't seem to match with the globe.
Let me see.
So
I wonder if that was the same fellow.
Okay. You can kind of
I'll look for that real fast.
Okay, cool.
Let's see, because that may have been the same person who mentioned it last night, and I just forgot to go back and look.
Okay.
I may have just copied and pasted the wrong thing into it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Good question. Raphael said, Michael, forgot to ask, did you set up all shootout projectors on 720p to give the low budget ones a fighting chance? Yeah, for sure, man. Nah, I didn't. Again, this was one of those things where I was just invited to the event. It wasn't my event. This was really all Ryan's doing. There's another gentleman, Jonathan. So both of them are part of that home theater or Kansas home theater tour that I did. So I featured them on the channel. Super knowledgeable guys. Tony and Nick Nick flew down from Wisconsin to calibrate all the projectors. And then Tony drove down about 9 hours to be at the event. We even had one guy fly the next day from California just to come check out one of the projectors.
So I wanted to ask you guys about something. Like, being on YouTube, like,
Here we go.
have you ever noticed, like, well, I try to be somewhat humble about certain things, right? Somewhat humble about things that I know, especially like things I'm confident about, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to push it in people's face. Like, look, I'm the best at this. I know how to do this. Like, I'd rather just be like a little bit.
Gene.
Yeah. You just want to chill on that sometimes, right? But sometimes, actually, it was on Gene's video. They were talking about, oral, of course, and then somebody mentioned me. And so, it kind of notifies you like, hey, you got mentioned.
Joe was tagged in the video.
Joe seems like a nice guy, but he doesn't seem like he knows very much because his garage is all messy. Like
wait,
yeah, I review speakers in there, and I just moved in not that long ago, right? And
Dude,
it takes
that's
a while
your lab.
Wait, who said your
It's your lab.
Your garage is messy?
Well, he said just like this guy relies too much on DSP. Angela's saying, who said that? But yeah, you know what? And like as if I'm inexperienced, right? It's kind of the thing. It's like, you know what? I've been doing this since I was 12.
Oh yeah.
Been and some of the guys who I talked to, like Chana, like we just did the DSP thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's certain times where you get crazy. You know what I mean? And people don't know. They don't have to know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to, but I think there's a downside to that though sometimes too, is when you're trying to be so humble, like Aaron, right? I think a lot of people didn't think, you know what, this guy probably doesn't know about home theater. And then he busts out like his home theater, it's like all legit.
Yeah, every once in a while, I have to just remind people, like, hey, I kind of do know what I'm doing, even though I don't talk about it a lot. Like, it ain't Atmos, but it works.
Right? Like where you're trying to just be cool about it, and then somebody tries to call you out, and you're like, all right, I'm going to have to flex on you then. I didn't want to. Try not to. But yeah, sometimes you just got to flex on some people. It's kind of like, I like, I don't like fighting, but I like those types of sports, combat sports. And I think it's one of those things where, a lot of the guys who know how to fight really well, they're just chill. They'll never say anything. They're just relaxed and like, hey, bro, please. There's an easier fight somewhere else.
Nah. Oh,
But if they keep pushing it, you're going to have to show them what's up. In a nice way. I mean, I don't mean it in like a physical way. I mean, like sometimes you just got to tell people, I actually do know what I'm talking about. That's all.
I think, like you said, every once in a while, you just have to check people. You got to start checking fools.
Or clean your garage.
I was trying to find Croissant's comment. That was great. Croissant, that was great.
He's like,
every time I clean out the boxes, right, I actually have to take the boxes to a separate place because they don't fit. In the trash, like how many boxes you get. You take it somewhere, and then the whole new set of speakers comes in. Like, never ends. Not complaining, but that's just how it is.
I think it's funny how people like to take one little detail and like make a huge deal about it, and that has nothing to do with your experience with this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just funny. I mean, like I remember, so last week's video, somebody posted in the Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision users group or whatever on Facebook. Well, this one guy's like, I didn't even click on the video. Like, I love how all these people that their first home theater is this new Atmos 5.1.2. And they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, please, dude, I've been doing this since 1994. Mm-hmm. No, right? And wait, it's 2022. So what is that? 28 years?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is it my math wrong? 20.
This guy doesn't know math.
Yeah, you suck at math.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on what month you were born in. Yeah, we'll just go with.
Yeah. Right. But anyway, like I'm just like, dude, like I was growing, and then even with the HiFi stuff, like I was the I don't like the word audiophile, but I was definitely an accidental audiophile because my dad was all into this. I knew what Macintosh, Bang & Olufsen, and Nakamichi were when I was 7. How about you? Nope.
Yeah.
And then when my parents split up and, my uncle helped me get this little CD boombox player thing, I'm like, man, this sounds like ass. Then I go to my dad's house. I'm like, this sounds so good. And I'm like, what is the problem? Then I go to my friend's houses, like in junior high and high school, and we're listening to the same music. I'm like, man, this Sony system sucks. Go back to my dad's house. Man, this is so awesome. What is the thing here? So, back in 1994, my dad was like, hey, let's get you a sound system. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, so we went to all these different places because there was no internet obviously back then. So it was all mom and pop places. That's where I got my JBL 2408 monitors and a Denon Pro Logic 2. There you go.
Nice.
Aaron, receiver.
Nice.
and then that was the start. And then like I pieced together a 5.1. That was all in my bedroom while I was a sophomore in high school. Been doing this for a long time. And what's funny? I had a Pioneer Laserdisc player back then, and I had this new Pioneer LX505 receiver. Man, are they ever going to change the font? Like, it's the same shit from the 90s. Like, it's
What is it? Does it
2021.
look like a clock? Like,
Dude.
what kind of font?
It's just like this.
You told me on the phone, like, what kind of font are we talking about?
It's
what
like
is
this
font?
little liney font. Like, I'll show it in the video. Like, when you hit the info button, I'm just like, what is this, dude? Come on, can we get a proper font, please?
You're making it sound like a clock radio where like the 8 is like a
yes,
line.
Exactly.
Line,
Yeah,
line,
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. That's how it is.
Like the old, yeah. Dude, I think that's cool. What talking about, man. What do you want? Like an OLED display for your
no, I just want letters, bro. Letters that look like I'm from 2021.
Why do we even need a screen on those things? You're not supposed to be looking at them anyway. That's what the remote is for.
John was like, look at the black levels on this screen here. It's like not even
the black levels on their letters are just off. But anyway, back to the point. It's just funny. It's just funny to me that people on the internet are just like, oh yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, cool.
So is there a good balance between letting people know that you kind of know what you're talking about? Is like how do you?
I mean, how many times do I have to say, oh yeah, I'm a music producer. I have original music played on terrestrial radio and in TV shows globally. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to audio. Do I need to say that in every video? Like, no, dude. Like that
should be your 2022 intro.
Do I have to have is this a resume? Do I have my resume credentials, in the beginning of every video? Like, that's lame.
You might have to.
How do you do it, Michael?
I don't worry about it.
Michael's just like, hey, this is Youth Man. Yeah, y'all don't want no problems.
I just I don't feel the need that I've got to prove myself to anybody. I'm gonna make content the best that I can.
Terrestrial radio, yeah.
And if you don't like it, just move on. I'm still gonna be nice to them. I'm not gonna be a jerk.
I see.
So
if they're a jerk,
the answer
then I
just don't care so much about it.
What's that? No, because the reality, and I say this kind of lightheartedly, but kind of seriously, I'm not concerned what somebody that lives in their mama's basement behind a keyboard thinks. I'll never meet in person. And like I said, it's kind of
that's what Gary Vaynerchuk.
The guy on the plane. The guy on the plane probably he's the one who's messaging you that one time.
Yeah, he probably is.
No,
dude. Saw you like, hey, what's up, man?
No, well, no, he just bought Crosson's subwoofer from me.
Oh, yeah,
that was funny. So here's a funny story, real quick. So I get an email on Saturday. I'm sorry, on Friday. We were doing it was Saturday. Anyway, I don't care. I got my days mixed up. Saturday, we're doing the shootout. We split for lunch. And I checked my emails, and a guy messages me. He's like, Michael, I just saw your post. You're in Kansas City. I'm like 10 minutes from you. Love to meet you, man. He said, I've watched every one of your videos. He said, I've watched your videos more than you have made videos, kind of thing, because he's watched some of them more than once. And so it was funny, but I don't know why, but I'm like, I'm going to text this dude. And I didn't invite him over to the event because it's not my event, but we were heading to lunch. I'm like, hey, we're going over to the Chinese restaurant. If you're 10 minutes away and you want to join us, come hang out. He hung out. Super cool dude. He's building a home, and he had told me that in email, or renovating a home. He's got a 6,000 square foot house.
Damn.
He told us he paid like next to nothing for this thing. So definitely wasn't in this, $3 million that you'd pay in California, probably. Huge, massive homes. Got a big theater that he's building. I think it's going to be, what do you say, 23 feet by like 30 feet. I mean, it's a big old theater room and 3 rows of seating. He was a super nice guy. And so he shows up, we talk, I introduce him to the guys. I'm like, look, you need to just get to know these guys. They're incredible. They'll help you out. And he's just like a sponge, man. He's taking notes and stuff. So we go out in the parking lot, and one of the guys that I was with, he's like, hey, are you coming back to the shootout? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, I could. He said, I'd love that, dude. They're like, yeah, come on. I'm like, I don't know, man. This ain't my house. And they're like, nah, come on. So he comes back to the house. He does the shootout with us, is there till like literally about midnight. The next day, I was sharing with the homeowner. I'm like, hey, Ryan, you ain't gonna believe this. There was a dude that showed up and this happened. And he's like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. He's like, he's welcome to come over today if he wants to just come hang out. So I texted him. He had some plans. So he said, he said, well, tell him tonight I've got this guy flying in from California that wants to look at this new NZ9. And he's like, he's welcome to come over if he wants to hang out in the theater. And so we sat for hours, man. It was just a cool thing. Like I said, to me, it's all about the friendships and the relationships and, the knowledge that we learn. And one thing I want to say about that is try to surround yourself with people that know more than you do. And that's in anything, like Chana, if you're into NFTs and stuff, find people that are in that and learn from them, man. If you want to learn about measurements, find people like Aaron that can really just kind of help you understand what those measurements mean. And so this guy, Jeff,
what do I do?
All right, so Joe,
clearly nothing. Joe's liver.
I'll even go a totally different way, man. You want to build a business? All right, hook up with Joe, man. Joe's been successful at many businesses,
And so if you want to know how to deal with people and like be an awesome person, that's Michael's area.
That's right, man. So gotta love him, man.
Reggie says you need to submit your legitimate resumes so we can know if you're really legit or not.
That's funny. No, man, it was so cool though. But we had the greatest time. But surround yourself with people that know more than you do. And man, if all of us could have that type of community that they've got established in Kansas City. Now this took them like 10 years to develop this. And mostly it came from like the AVS forum, and they do get-togethers and stuff. But man, I'm trying to establish that here in Florida. I'd love to have some people that we can learn from each other, go check out their system, do some, they call home theater crawls or home theater hangouts, whatever you want to call that. So, but anyway, so it was just fun, dude. So, but he was taking notes on his phone, like people would mention something, and he's like, MadVR, what's that? So he's going to go home and research it and just learn more about it. So super cool, man.
That's awesome, man. Bringing people together, huh?
Yeah. Yep. This person says, youth man, you be learning. Business rule, never be the smartest person in the room. Hey, that's easy for me, brother. It means you're in the wrong room. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we have an awesome group.
Yeah, for sure.
Just even these guys, but all you guys out there who are watching, it's community, all family.
Man. It's all about community. Yep.
And you guys in the after show, you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Except for Aaron clearly doesn't think so.
Except for Aaron does guys.
Some after show info here. If you are interested in joining the after show, patreon.com/daily HiFi. And oh man, like dude, sometimes I stay in there a long time. I'm gonna try not to this time. Because last time I swear you, about like 4 or 5 hours. So you get what you pay for. If you want to, some extra info, some exclusives,
because these guys are going to talk about this shootout before Mike's video drops.
I'm sure we'll get something else.
So yeah.
It'll be fun.
Joe, do you want to talk about what we did or what you did the other day?
Yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
So Joe's been asking for a while for so he can remotely DSP, or basically it's a room calibration, right?
Yeah.
With the new what is it, multi EQX, multi
EQX
for the Denon or whatever Marantz, and man, I gotta say, pretty awesome. 4 hours. It took him 4 hours. And he took a little break. He took a break to eat, and I took a break to go to the market. I went to the market, went and walked the dogs, came back. He's like, all right, I'm done. So he was still working on my computer. And I gotta say, like, technology is fantastic. Like Joe just, what is it? Team viewered into my laptop, right? And then I was there doing the measurements and stuff like that. And then once all that was done, he just went in and did the little calculations, popped it into the AVR, and then when I called him again, I was just like, yo, he's like, hey, I'm done. I'm like, okay, cool. What do we need to do? He's like, let's take one more measurement. And like he even got, derived the house curve, and then, saw, dude, my subs.
He's been telling you that forever.
They sound like subwoofers now, don't they?
They go down to 15, man.
Yeah,
they go down to 15.
Man. No more 50 hertz peak and then falling off like a cliff, right?
Oh yeah, that too. That thing's smoothed out, nice little hump.
Yeah,
my hump, right? Nice little hump. And
are you going to start singing the
wrong computer, Croissant? That's on a
National
different
anthem?
computer.
That's funny.
It was fun, man. I had a good time. Thank you for letting me do it.
Hey, no problem, man.
Because honestly, it's a weird thing where I'm spending 4 hours. Like you can ask Croson, I'm asking people, hey, I want to try this. I want to get some feedback from certain folks, right? To make sure that what I'm doing, I think it's awesome. I think it sounds great.
Well, why are you giving me the runaround? Like every time I ask you to tune my system, you're like, dude, I don't mess with 5.2.
It doesn't work on Dolby Pro Logic.
Apparently.
Well, it's the
it doesn't even have Odyssey.
The app.
Mine's just the Iliad right now. It's before the Odyssey.
I actually missed the pad. I hit the little plastic in between.
That's all right.
I guess it only works with Jen and Marantz that has the that can use that multi-QX.
Anything that works with the app. If it works with the app, then you can use this multi-QX. But yeah, I have a good time, and I think it's awesome. I just think it's great that you can get such good sound. So maybe that guy was kind of right. I am all about DSP. When I see speakers like these Polks that don't measure extremely well, but I see good directivity index, I'm like, I think somebody could they can make that into a good little system that sounds really, really good. You're not going to be playing it super loud, and you're going to need a sub. You're going to need all these things, but we're a lot further along than we used to be, where you kind of feel like you have to just buy the most expensive speakers, and how expensive they actually get. So that's why I'm excited about this. It's like we're using the technology to actually improve our systems. As much as a lot of these purists don't want to admit that, come on, man. It's a computer. Like how can a guy who's making a speaker with some passive components, right? Capacitor, and he's put in a resistor. How are you going to beat a computer? Like I'm measuring it. I'm using computing power.
Oh man, measurements don't matter.
Yeah, I guess they don't.
It was actually crazy to see how many adjustments you can make and how you can actually manipulate it so that he even worked out some of the highs, EQ'd up the highs in the what do you call it in the
yours
in the main speakers.
Yours are tricky because you have some Martin Logan.
I got Martin. So
I've never seen an in-room response that falls like that. That's crazy too, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it was
he has some what are those electrostats?
Yeah. You need to show that graph if you have it, just so people know what you're talking. If Chana doesn't mind you showing.
We've showed it before, man.
No, it's a different one. Because
we talking about the graph? I don't think Michael's talking about the graph.
Nah, I was talking about that big drop off on the subs.
Oh, I thought
I'm talking about on the highs. Joe posted the other day, and I was like, it was somewhere around 5K or so, and it went just.
It was
down,
almost a shelf EQ just going down.
Interesting.
I looked at the scale. I was like, maybe that's just zoomed in 1 dB increments or something. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. So let me see. I have it here.
Croissant. No manner of EQ will bring down your high, my man. Yeah, totally.
Well, it's interesting because you have your other speakers are not electrostats, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm in a hodgepodge in betweeny state because I've been waiting for these focals, and these towers are just not being made. They're not being made, or we have no idea about when it's going to show up. So I'm almost, now that I heard the towers with the subs the way they are integrated, oh man, yeah, screw the towers. I don't need no stinking towers, right? So I'm gonna get the Focal bookshelf speakers, the Aria bookshelf, Aria Center, Aria Surround. So I'm waiting for that 5.0, and then I'll have a fully, with the other 5 Focals, a fully timbre matched setup. So I can't wait for that because that's gonna sound nice and cohesive, bubble kind of thing. So electrostatic Martin Logan's in the front, Polk Audio center channel, Polk Audio surrounds, and then the Focal high channels. So it's just a big old mess. It's a mess, right? So
it must be good if I can get Chana to spend less money. That never happens. Chana never spends less money, right? So there's something happening there. So here's those.
You should pay Joe the difference.
There you go, Croissant. Cheers.
So don't look at this part. This is just I
gotta get some whiskey in here.
Electrostat part up here, right? Over here, this is where the woofer takes over in this area, but we weren't measuring that. We were just measuring this part. but like look at the slope downward. Like wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
And this is near, so you'd expect near field. You expect this to kind of be straight.
Yeah.
Like this, right? And 5 dB increments here, and just like. But here's what's also interesting is here's at the listening position. Where is it? Front listening position, 14 feet away, right? Typically, what you expect is even a harsher treble drop off, right?
That's pretty consistent.
Aaron, confirm, right? You expect from air attenuation, the treble drops off. But these, because they're so tall, they're almost acting like those JBLs, Michael. Those line arrays.
The line arrays,
they're not really dropping off as much.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what's kind of interesting, how these both kind of look. But anyway, these are the front left and right speakers. His other speakers totally different. What do you have? What is it? Center, the Polk Reserve.
Polk Reserve 350
so
or whatever. Look at that.
Like you can see, like they're totally different, right? But at the end, the whole point is to kind of get them to sound more similar than different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then I did some binaural recordings. So the cool part is Denon has now 2 presets, right? So the first preset is Odyssey. Preset 2 is Joe's Magic Beans settings, as I like to call them, because they're magic beans, right?
Nice.
And then
did you sell those to Dwight?
Yes, it's Dwiggett. Sold it to Dwiggett. Where are my picture, Dwight?
Because you're the bestest Mitch.
Yep. All right, so here is the one thing that you can notice with these screenshots. Where are you? Facebook, here it is. Boom. All right, so this is A Quiet Place. This is a very first scene. Wait, A Quiet Place? No, this is Midway. Derp. So this is Midway. And you can see this is the what is it called? This is the Odyssey, and then this is Joe's Magic Beans.
Magic
settings.
Beans. Yeah.
Right. Negative 14 dB on the volume, and you can just see how much louder it is, right? It's
that's the secret right there. You just make it louder.
That's right. Pump up the volume, baby.
Louder.
So then here's 300. This is the intro scene to 300. Just the like crack in the beginning, like the very, very, very beginning in that like the 4K disc. Awesome Atmos scene. And you can see just louder, right? And you're like, okay, cool. Well, that's not really a big deal until we get to what is this one? Stereo music, same thing, right? Where's the last one? God damn it. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So now Joe was like, okay, why don't you level match them? So here are 2 of them that are level matched. And here is the right channel for Joe's, and here's the right channel for Odyssey. And you can see right here, look at the dynamics on here. Look how tight this is. Look how sloppy Odyssey is with the music right here, right? Look at all these. You can see all the transients, you know, when the bass, this is all just drum kicks. When the bass kicks in, you know, it's nice. Like here, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's all looks compressed almost. So how about this? Forget all these graphs, right? Just tell us what did you think about it? Like, how does it sound in comparison to, let's just say, you've had Odyssey for a long time. You've had Anthem Arc.
Well, I
see what you think of Dirac.
Odyssey, I always have to go turn up the bass, and then I have to turn up the center channel like 3 dB. And I didn't have to do any of those things. And the way the bass was like playing with the with the subs were playing with the mains, man, it was great. And that's when I was just like, and we're cutting it off at 80, and I'm like, oh, I don't need towers at all. Now I got the subs are like dialed in, and it sounds, and it's not like overbearing. It's not too much. It's like just right. And in those moments when it, needs to kick ass, it kicks ass, like it's one of those things. I was just like, holy crap. And, when you go from preset to preset, there's like a little, a little time for it to like load it up. So hopefully, in the video, I can just go boom, boom, boom. So you can hear.
Yeah. Like cut out that space.
Right. And the difference is huge. The difference is huge. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds so much better. Why don't they just do this? And it's because, when you buy a TV and you bring it home and you're like, oh, this picture profile is cool. Okay. And then you get on the phone and you're like, hey, can somebody come and calibrate my TV? and then all of a sudden they get it to, you know, white balance is perfect, you know, so you're just using graphs, right? Just like Joe's EQing it to get that house curve perfect. We're trying to, you know, line up the white balance on the TV. So it's almost like he came in and just, you know, was like a, you know, aftermarket professional TV calibrator, but for audio.
Well,
and he did it remotely. That was the
how
cool
you're
part.
saying, like, measurements don't matter, right? The final measurement when you took the after, I'm like, that's gonna sound awesome. You don't have to tell me. Like, I see it.
Joe's like, this is gonna sound awesome.
That's like, gonna sound awesome.
Do all kinds of stuff. Listen to music, watch movies. Man, I went through all kinds of stuff. Music, movies, and I was just like, oh man. And you know, when the bass like actually comes in now, it's awesome. It's blended very well. And I gotta say, man, I was not a believer.
You were not a believer.
I was like,
well, yeah, I know. You're just like, oh, I guess we'll do it on Friday, whatever.
Yeah, let's just do it then. And then, like, when I was watching you do it, I was just like, oh, this makes a whole lot of sense. Oh, this is what, like, oh, and then the computer does the calculation. Well, okay, cool.
What's crazy though is like a lot of people have a Denon Marantz and they're running auto calibration. And so if you go back and forth, right, that's it. All you're doing is going from auto to a manual calibration. And I mean, just looking at the graphs, I could tell
but I mean, it's so much more. It's so much more than just sitting there with a dB meter and just level matching. Right? It's way more than that. You're actually correcting problems with like the speaker or the room. So it's one of those things where I was just like, yeah, this is pretty awesome. And every time my wife has to go to work, I'm like, yes. Yeah, let's go. And you know, the funny part is she's always the one that's saying, hey, the bass is too much. It's too much bass. So Joe was like, don't tell her you did anything. Let's see what she says. It's been what is it, Monday? It's been 3 days. She hasn't noticed.
She hasn't said anything.
She hasn't said anything. Yeah. So
awesome. And you know why
the bass is more even now.
Exactly. When it's when you have that spike at like 50, that's like a huge spike.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
It gets activated certain times. You're like, whoa, it's too loud, right? And a lot of times it doesn't seem too loud. So when you even that out, you know, you don't mind the bass so much because it doesn't surprise you. It's kind of like
the bass should stand out. Right. The bass should just supplement like everything else in the music, you know. And when you have one note,
right, be there, right?
Like a lot of people, well, that's like a lot of the bookshelf speakers or the budget speakers. They're tuned to where they have like a high Q bump right around like 100 hertz or so. So it gives you strong, punchy bass, but that's it. You know, so when you have that with subwoofers where it's like right around 50 hertz or 40 hertz and it hits that strong note, you're like, oh, this is awesome. But then you're like, okay, well, I got 50 hertz, but where's 40 hertz, you know, or where's 80 hertz and stuff like that. Yeah, that's why EQ is very important for subwoofers for sure.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that I was excited to do, is to get those rels to play notes that they didn't really want to play. You know what I mean? You got dual 15s. I'm like, you got all the capability here. Let's just make them do a little bit of work. Come on.
Why are they only rated at 24 hertz? I'm like, I don't know.
Come on.
You know,
put in some work.
Yeah.
So
Joe did all the work, and then it's just like, well, why isn't Odyssey doing this already? Why is it not? And I get it, because, you know, I was measuring each speaker, you know, independently, and then, you know, that's, I mean, yes, like it picks up from the main listening position and measures it, right? But I don't know. Maybe the you know, software inside or the processor inside of these you know, receivers just aren't the greatest.
I think the process is wrong, to be honest. I think the way that they measure is, you know, whatever. But you know, it's funny. I actually became I finished the whole Floyd Tools book, and I'm like, oh man, now what am I gonna read now? You know?
Yeah, where's the chat? Where's the volume?
What am I gonna do? So I ended up joining what is that? AES, Audio Engineering Society, because they have a bunch of white papers there, so I can nerd out. And I found one about room correction from Sean Olive, and they're comparing various room corrections. I think there was like 6 of them.
Oh,
right?
I remember seeing that. Yeah, I remember seeing that. That man, that's pretty old, isn't it?
It's an old one.
It seemed like I read it in 2010. Yeah.
So I think that's around when it came out, 2009. But it's funny because they were comparing 2 JBL ones, or Harman ones, Harman DSPs, and then no EQ, right? No EQ, like nothing at all. And then I think 3 others. One was Lingdorf, Odyssey, and Anthemark, right? And they go through this whole procedures and basically showing that most of the time the two they don't name who's right? Which one's which, but they say these 2 are the ones that perform the best, and then the next after that was no EQ, so that's 3. All right, and then I forgot, but just basically like you can kind of figure out like the other ones did worse than no EQ. That's the whole point, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to know which one's which, but you can kind of guess. But it's kind of interesting. You pay for this auto EQ, and sometimes it makes it worse.
Sometimes it can. Yep.
Wow.
And that's why I think at the end of the day, you got to use your ears and make sure, or you have to go back and check what it did. Sometimes you have to change settings. With the projector shootout, we found sometimes you can literally change one setting and it completely changes like your experience. Same thing with subwoofers, whether that's changing the phase, there's different things that you can do. So
yeah, well, it's very interesting. All this stuff DSP is kind of right up my alley because it's computer related and that's audio related. Yeah, and anytime I can do those 2 things, I'm happy. Yeah. Jonathan says, can you do that with my Trenov? I actually haven't messed with Trenov, but I don't know that I don't know. I know you have the Marantz. I know you have the Marantz. I kind of feel like I want to almost challenge
head.
He's got a Denon.
He's got the same one I have. Do Trenov auto.
Right.
Oh.
And then let Joe come in
708, Jonathan. I know you do. Because
that's a shootout right there.
But I'm kind of curious, pay the $200 for the app. Let me calibrate it just for a shootout. Just to see which one wins. Maybe I don't know how many speakers you have. I don't want to do like 15 speakers, but
so is that something that you can measure, Joe?
What do you mean?
Like to do the shootout? Is that something you can objectively measure, or you just want him to say, "Tell me what you think"?
In a way.
Yeah.
In a way.
Proton says. Go ahead.
Just curious.
The point of Trenov is to not have to do that.
I don't know what
that's what they say.
Yeah, but then there's the price disparity. That's the thing, right? It's a price disparity. What was the Denon's like $2,500? Trenov what?
I'm confident in
12,000, 15,000.
I'm confident in my method, and going back looking at some of those old AES papers, it seems like a lot of times they're telling you what's not good, what you don't do, what's wrong, but they don't tell you what to do.
That's a great thought, Raphael.
It's interesting, and it makes me wonder if like maybe that's proprietary information because maybe they came up with this research while working at JBL and they're using the technology, and so they can't say exactly what it's doing. They can just tell you what the other ones are doing wrong. And I agree with them. I think the other ones are doing some stuff wrong. So
somebody asked,
am I a network engineer? Well, I had an IT business for 10 years, a while ago, a long time ago.
Joe, you don't know nothing.
I don't know nothing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Dropping those subtle
newbie.
Those subtle plugs, man.
Yeah.
Subtle flex.
Dude, you don't even know how to box.
Sometimes you just got to do that, Joe.
I know more about computers than I know how to box, though. But there's a lot of customization you can do with Trenov. Yeah, well, I know it has that fancy mic. I don't know that I need that mic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm curious because the only way to know is to try, and I'm up for the challenge. If you want to put up your Trenov versus Marantz with my settings, let's see what happens. You know, if Trenov wins, then well, it should, right?
Well, it should. They already started at a disadvantage because they're so much more expensive. You know what I mean?
But it's kind of like,
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but they better do better, right?
Sure. Correct.
For that much more money. But personally speaking, I would much rather have a mini DSP that I can do stuff with myself, and then have Dirac to help me take care of the room once I dial in the speaker the way I want it to be dialed in. You know what I mean? So that's how I would prefer to go about it.
Well, that's what this Odyssey thing is. It's kind of turns your AVR into a mini DSP now.
Yeah.
It just type in your PEQ settings, right?
Yeah, that was cool.
Just do everything manually. And I think a lot of folks don't understand that it has nothing to do with doing the auto calibration better. It's all about you doing your own measurements and then entering in your info into that.
Well, that's so funny too, because like you say that, and I realize when you say that, I'm sitting here like, yeah, this is basic stuff, but I'm like, most home audio and home theater audio people don't know that. But car audio, we've been doing this for 10 or 15 years. So it's like, yeah, I need a Q of 1 here, or yeah, I need a Q of 15 to knock down this resonance. You know, like this is basic stuff, but it's not it's starting to get more popular, I guess. I don't know. I just hope that I hope people take the time to understand how to properly use the measurements to help them, like kind of like what you're doing, because you can do some really cool stuff with good measurements and proper equalization.
Well, I think this is a great time right now to be into this, because with guys like you who are providing these measurements, now I can look at this Polk speaker and say, all right, this is EQable, but not here. This area here, don't try to EQ that. So, you know, you have all this information that wasn't here 10 years ago. You didn't have that information.
Yeah. I mean, you certainly didn't have it to the level that you do now with all the different
fed to you on a platter. Like, here you go.
Right. Yeah. And super easy to access. You just pull it up. Like you can just Google and find it. And a lot of manufacturers are getting better about providing basic information too, you know, so then you just look at it and be like, yeah, it may not be flat, you know, on axis anechoic, but I can EQ it to my heart's content. Perfect. That's a good speaker to get, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, interesting stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the after show. What are you guys saying in the chat here? Well, we don't see Joe till Tuesday. It's true. I stay in the.
I thought that one was really funny.
Reggie says we don't know what we're talking about. Is this the time, Michael, where I use that?
Just calm, just like. It's all good, Reggie. Love you too, brother.
Woosa.
Reggie says that, but then he says real subwoofers are tuned to be flat to 22 or 24 hertz. I'm like, real subwoofers go down to 0 hertz, buddy. That's a subwoofer.
Yeah.
22 hertz. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't be a sub if it's not hitting 0.
Yeah, exactly right, dude. I want it to be hitting negatives.
I'm making you poop.
I'm okay with 5. It's all good.
I want it to hit -5. Then I'm happy.
Yeah, 5.
I want it to send me into the 3rd dimension.
Man, there's a lot of comments that I missed here. Go ahead. You guys take over. I'm going to catch up here.
Somebody said that you didn't know what you were talking about, Joe. I can't remember who.
There were several.
I love it when they just troll us. Oh, it's fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Laz, why do you want to get rid of the Martin Logans? Because of my room, right? They're like bipolar, and it's so hard keeping up with their personalities. Like it's just very just kidding. Anyway, bottom line is like one of them's like right in front of like this window, so like there's sound bouncing off of that, and then it's just not ideal, right? You should have those like closer out into the room, like closer to your listening out in that room. And the focals are great because they got a frontboard firing port, so then you don't have all that issues. I can put it up against the wall, so that's why I'm making the move over to focal. Also, so I had the Klipsch RF7 that had that like compression horn driver thing. Then so I had that, and then I went to the Martin Logans. I was like, oh, that was nice. Oh, sorry, dipolar. And then when I went to the focals, I was just like, ooh, I like this a little bit better. So, half of it's just experimenting with like speakers that have different materials, for that, high end. So, just like the focals a little bit more.
Hey, that kind of makes me think of somebody had asked in one of my comments today in a video and said, like, what speaker would you get? Or because I mentioned in my home theater tour that I would, at some point like to maybe change some things around, but I didn't know if I ever actually would. And they said, well, what would you change to? And the easy answer for me is I have no idea, because there's so many things that I would like to try. You know what I mean? Like from this kind or this brand to this brand, from, a dipole to an omnipole to an open baffle, which I guess is dipole, but just all sorts of stuff in between. So I'm just curious, like, is there any stuff that you guys have been thinking about, or is everybody pretty happy with what they've got? I guess Chana's out. I'm assuming Michael is probably very happy with his setup and no plans to change.
No, but he needs to have Joe's magic bean settings.
Hey,
that's what he said. He's like,
Good
Michael
beans.
needs to do this.
Yeah. You'll probably I bet you anything like
and here's
those
the thing,
JTRs will wake up and all of a sudden break your house.
Well, honestly,
Like-
here's the thing. I'm learning how to calibrate subwoofers, but calibrating speakers and manually doing that. Yeah. So to answer Croson's question, no, I'm legitimately not the smartest dude in the room. I appreciate it, but I definitely am not.
And everybody can always learn from somebody.
Yeah, man. And that's the fun part of this, man. That's the fun part.
I work with like freaking brilliant people. I'm humbled every day. I was already a humble person. I guess it doesn't make me humble to say that, but I work with brilliant people. So
Yeah, Michael, I'll do your system.
Cool, man.
I'm
gonna have to bounce here, guys.
All right.
Right on.
I was trying to hang on to the after party, but I know you guys are.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
not
we're
30.
just-
We should.
Yeah, let's save it for the after show. Boom. It's already time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I'll drop in just for a few minutes if anybody's got any questions or whatever about.
Then I gotta go watch the Alabama game.
The shootout.
Well,
I'm gonna love on my family. I hadn't seen them in 4 days, so
Oh yes,
Ah.
Yeah,
do your thing.
yeah.
So on behalf of all of us here at Daily HiFi, thank you so much for watching. If you want to get into the after show, go to patreon.com/Daily HiFi and become a patron, and you will get access to the video chat after show. And yeah, we will see you there. For those of you that are not patrons, we will see you next week. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.